Hopefully you liked what you saw in that tall kneeling session. I got a lot of information. I haven't started talking about it yet, especially to the people in the video. But I hope you took some notes about some things maybe you want to do. Either way, by exposing them to tall kneeling with the kettlebell up front and in behind and having them rotate left and right, we got to see how their pelvis and their T-spine and shoulder girdles interact when they move. I got to check their breathing and everything like that. And they, believe it or not, got to experience a baseline. They got to see if they've got a difficult side or a side that feels a little stiff or hard to breathe. Now we're going into half kneeling, and this is our opportunity to take one leg out of the mix and really amplify maybe restrictions seen in the ankle and the hip while still on a stable pelvis. This is very important because as we go into these motions, we can see other problems as well. But the same rule applies. We can critique what they're doing in our head, but if we voice it and don't use their breath or their integrity to fix it, we've got a problem. What I want to do is run through the half kneeling. I want you to jot those things down. And then we circle back around and revisit tall kneeling, because now we've worked on the upper, we've worked on the lower, we put it back together. Why? It's their baseline. They know how it felt the first time. And we're not just trying to create an exercise here, we're trying to create an experience that's going to help you dial in your warm-up so you know where to work and what to work on and how to control it. Remember, every time I get them to fix what they're doing, it's with their breath or telling them not to go quite so far. Because if you go further than you can control your motion, your mobility and your stability do not match. At the very end, I summarize this and show you how to talk to a client about this experience and relate it right back to things like their movement screen or even their training. I've already gotten your hips more than you think, but mostly I've been focused on your core, your T-spine, and your breathing. Breathing is still job one, but now I'm going to basically introduce you to how different each of your legs are. So you're already here. You're in sort of that triangle position I gave you. Here's what I want you to do. If you're okay with the kettlebell behind, that's going to be more challenging. Go ahead and put it behind. If you prefer it up front, it works either way. So take it to a challenging point, but if any time it's too challenging, you come back through to front. So if you want to stay front, if you want to go back, go ahead and do that now. All right, so that's the position you're going to go to. Now, before we go there, let me just show you a classy way to transition this. If I'm going to bring this foot up, I bring my kettlebell to this side of the body. I put all the weight over here and watch what happens. With all the weight over here, I put that leg up. So go ahead and switch the kettlebell off the side and let's go left foot up first. Good, and that was a much easier transition than trying to hold it in center. Now, bring it back to where it's supposed to be. Now, one of the things I want you to understand is this leg doesn't get to swing out. This leg is laterally rotated. So that means the foot's still in the center, the knee's still out. This foot perpendicular to this leg. So if I drew a line, it would form a 90-degree angle right there, a perfect L, whether holding front or back. Now, the one thing I want you to be aware of, don't dump the knee in. If anything, I should be able to see my foot on the inside of my knee, not the outside of my knee, okay? Having said that, choke up on the ankle just a bit. Good. Now, with the chest up and the kettlebell down, go ahead and cycle it down, lean in to that ankle, okay? Heel's got to stay down and look down and see. Can you see foot on the inside of your knee without bending your head so much? Look. I should be able to see it right there. So put that head back in the center and just keep that knee out. That's the goal of this thing, keep that knee out. Get into that. Now, 2 breaths on that ankle stretch. Get in, don't lean too far, torso's up. Look down, see if you see that foot, get into that ankle. Really good. Now, we're gonna bias the hip. We just choked up on that ankle. Now, setting that ankle out beyond 90 degrees, whoa, I'm getting it in the groin right now. So go ahead and look for that, get into that, give me a couple of breaths down there. Same deal. Good. Doesn't matter which groin you should feel it in. Now listen, the one thing people always want to say to me when I'm doing this is, Gray, where should I feel this? I don't know. What's your favorite ice cream? I don't know what your favorite ice cream is, and I don't know where you're going to feel this, but I know if I set it up right, you're probably going to feel it in either groin right here. When you're turning, you're probably going to feel an oblique cramp, and when your ankle's choked up, you're probably going to feel a little soleus stretch or maybe something in the glute. Having said that, feel it where you feel it, breathe through. There's no set answer to this. Get through it. Your number one job, tell me about your difficulty. Tell me if your sides are different, okay? So now that you've explored the hip and ankle on this side, offset the kettlebell to the side of the knee that's down, get all your weight over here, bring that leg back to tall kneeling, swing the weight around, stick that half kneel. Good. Get in position. Remember where the foot goes. Give me that 90 degrees to the knee. So open, good. Turn that foot in. Swing that foot in. This hip right here, other way. Even more. Even more. That's where it would be if you were in tall kneeling, okay? So now you can reposition that foot forward. Slide it forward to me. I think it'll be easy. There you go. Good. And I'm trying to get that perpendicular. So there, that's perfect. Now you're good. Okay. Choke up on the ankle. Now, torso up, chest up, using your breath. Push the kettlebell down. Make sure those traps got no tension. Show me your ankle. Let's go. Good. Get into that ankle. Keep that heel down. Set that knee out. Remember, it doesn't matter where you feel it. As long as it's not painful, you get an appraisal between your left and right side. They're either different or they're similar. They're either difficult or you can handle it and you won't die. Good enough. Come on out of there. Hit it one more time. Good. Come back out of there. Now, slide that foot out. Now we're going to bias the groin. Some people get it on the out leg. Some people get it on the down leg. It doesn't matter. Go ahead into it, but make sure you can see that foot with a good head position on the inside of your knee, not the outside. All right, I'm seeing you work that foot out a little bit, so come back to the center, bring that foot in a little bit. What I'm doing is laterally rotating that hip. There you go. Hit it again. Good enough. Is there a difference between those legs? Now, one of the things, I'm not going to make you guys do it, but after cycling through the half kneeling, if you go back to tall kneeling, that then supercharges tall kneeling and gets you even further. So sometimes finishing with a tall kneel is a great way to go. To give you an example of how I'm going to get inside their heads, which is something as simple as that session, you weren't able to put the kettlebell back behind you for some of those turns. It was difficult, but not because you got a flexibility problem. When we put you up on one leg, you were all over that hip. You were covering that hip. The reason you didn't like that kettlebell behind you is that was actually putting a lot of stress on your core. You were really having to use a layer of your abdominals that you're probably not using as much as you should. I didn't know your movement screen going into this, but I quickly guessed you got a 1 on the push-up, right? All right, you're an athlete, you got strong extremities. The weak link's gonna be in your core. You've been swimming a lot and stuff like that. So that right there, that plank that you've been trying to avoid forever, I'm gonna make you face the dragon because that's the only hole in what you're doing. Your mobility looked good. I did notice you're dumping your shoulders just a little bit forward. So doing half Turkish get-ups to complement this on days you're not doing this are awesome. As soon as you get your turns and stuff and you're behind, you may actually wanna hold one arm behind and maybe put something overhead or do something like that. But a little bit better posture upper body, I think, is gonna be the result of your core. As soon as your core's doing it, you'll be able to dump those shoulders back and you'll be fine. But I didn't see any mobility problems. When you got to the edge, it was just because you couldn't stabilize there anymore. But you had mobility problems. I don't think there's any problem with your push-up on the FMS, but I'm sure you're probably not 3s on some of the mobility moves, but you don't really need to be. You just don't need to be lower than 2s. When we started getting into that hip, man, that knee was just dumping in. We see that knee dump in exercise all the time, and we tell people, no, stick your knee out. If they could, they would. All right? So this is a great place to confront that. It's not a complicated pattern, but it's a complicated posture to hold. But postures are much easier than patterns. There's less moving parts, so we can focus on our breath better. As soon as you get good at these things, you'll actually be able to control your breath during exercise. But why would we try to control breath during exercise if we can't even control it during a posture or a stretch? So we use these opportunities to reset our breath just like we do to get some flexibility. But I swear to you, you could have spent an equal amount of time on a foam roll and not felt this flexible. Would you agree? Simply breathing into that T-spine. Secondly, I made you revisit your T-spine because half of your turn with your mobility is your hip problem. So once we went through that half kneeling, I wanted you to go back to that T-spine and see how much they complement. I want you to close that learning loop every day. I would say that it's more important for the first 2 weeks of doing this, Make this your warm-up in every workout. Even if it shaves a set of everything off your workout, you're gonna be better served by this. As soon as that's a piece of cake for you, I think you can even drop that or just revisit on a rest day or a regen day and convert this into maybe some of the overhead carries we've worked with, front rack, suitcase carry, just walking and stuff like that. But once it's easy, you can revisit it once a week and remind yourself to breathe and you'll be fine. But I think a lot of the flexibility problems that I know you've been working on for a while, they actually get better from this point on. Not because you're not gaining more mobility, you're taking the mobility, but now I'm forcing you to hit save on the document. I'm forcing you to breathe while you're using the mobility. That hits save on the document. So you could worry about your push-up, but I literally think if you never did any push-up stuff and simply own this, your push-ups get better without training the push-up. It's already a bad pattern. All you're gonna do is perpetuate the mistake. Don't even remember the way you used to do push-ups. Don't do push-ups for 2 weeks. Forget push-ups. Do this, and then one day, just try the push-up. And I think you'll at least bump one number without focusing on it, okay? Revisit the screen in a couple of weeks. Those things that used to give you maybe an asymmetry score or less mobility, see how much this covered in a general routine. We can still go specific with the screen, but in so many cases, this is user-friendly, it's simple, and on a day you miss the workout, right in front of the TV set, sandbag, plate weight, dumbbell, kettlebell, kid, pet, watermelon, doesn't matter, hold it. I think it'll give both of you what you need.